We're here at the Nullification Tour in Manchester, New Hampshire at the beautiful University of Southern New Hampshire campus in March 19th, just a couple of days before spring. And we're here with Dr. Robert Owens, who authored this interesting book. It's entitled The Constitution Failed. And first I want to thank you for interviewing me, being an interviewee. And I was very impressed by your credentials. I said, you didn't have much education. You get more degrees than a thermometer here. But of course, that doesn't make you an expert in the Constitution.
No, no.
In fact, I would say to most folks who have a lot of formal education, and you still know something about the Constitution. So. But it is impressive resume here. Tell us, the Constitution failed. As a constitutionalist, people see this as like, well, this guy hates the Constitution.
No.
Let's.
No, I love the Constitution. I think that it is the finest work that's ever come from the hand of man. But the problem is, it was written to institute and maintain a limited government. And today we have an unlimited government. So my question is, how can anybody say it's succeeding at the moment?
That's right.
You know, I'm not saying in this book or in any of my statements that the Constitution was a flawed document. I won't say that. I'm not saying it was always a failure. I'm not saying that it didn't succeed. What I'm saying is that at this moment, where we are today, how can anybody say anything different?
I know when the Constitution was being ratified, there were the anti-federalists, who basically, Patrick Henry said, I smell a rat. Mm-hmm. And I think that the first 100 years, maybe the first 60 years, Patrick Henry was probably incorrect, but as time went on, it sort of proven his statement. And what I tell people, now there's a couple of amendments that we should probably repeal. The 13th, income tax, not the 13th, I'm sorry.
16th.
16th, oh, not the 13th, we want to keep that.
How about the 17th?
17th
Let's have
amendment.
senators
Yep.
once again chosen by the states.
And maybe a few others. But it's not the Constitution that's so much flawed as it's the people that we elect to maintain the Constitution.
Well, look at this. Remember, everybody, every time, whenever I talk about it, they say, well, I like my freedom of speech. I like freedom of assembly. Well, all of those things are where? In the amendments.
That's right.
If you look at the Constitution without the first 10 amendments, that was what they wrote, and that's what they wanted ratified.
Right.
The only reason the 10 amendments are there is because the anti-federalists fought so hard they could not ratify it without putting them in.
Or with the promise of getting it.
Right. And so, but then look at history. The second president we had, John Adams, who was one of the co-authors of the Constitution and the Declaration.
Oh, the Declaration, yeah.
Yes. And what did he do? Alien sedition. He started arresting people and they kept him in jail till he wasn't president anymore. That's the second president. The third president, Thomas Jefferson, everybody knows he loves liberty. As soon as he had a chance to buy another country called Louisiana, his own government, his own party said, that's unconstitutional. He said, well, I'm going to do it anyhow. So, you know,
and he closed the ports.
Right. So this thing jumped the track early. And then you also have John Marshall, the second Chief Justice, who invented judicial review. Isn't in the Constitution anywhere. So, okay, you can go back and make that argument. But the fact remains, it created the atmosphere that fostered the freest, most liberty-loving, and most successful nation that's ever been in the history of the world. But where we're at today, it's not working. And this is why I wrote this. If we do not admit what the problem is, we have no chance to solve it. But I have faith and I have hope in the American people. If we will face the problem, we will solve it.
Let me ask you, what would the average person viewing this, what would you recommend to them? Because they have an obligation, not just to learn things, but to do something. And what would they do besides get a copy of the book and read it, which is the first thing I recommend?
Well, that would help. But I would say, go to your local tea parties. Find your patriot groups. There's one everywhere. You may not hear about it in the newspapers because they're not going to cover it. But you ask your neighbors, somebody knows about it.
Just do a search and put in Patriot Group somewhere and you'll get them all.
Whatever you put in the name, My Town USA Patriots, you're going to find some like-minded people you can get together with and start doing something.
I live in Boston, and you think Boston is, we call it the pagan belt. So you're sort of more Bible belt.
Yeah, we're the
right?
Bible belt.
But you'll find a lot of Patriot groups in the greater Boston. I'm with the John Birch Society. And the groups here at this rally, they include Massachusetts Liberty Preservation Association. There's several freedom groups in more than several in New Hampshire.
I go to a lot of these meetings around the country, and I am so encouraged by all the people, you know, that have got up off the couch, turned off the TV from the game shows and the footballs, and turned on the news, and are now engaged and are working to make a change.
And how can people get a copy of your book?
Amazon.com is the best place.
Okay. And if you do you have a website? If someone
Dr. Owens, that's Dr. Robert Owens, all one word, drrobertowens.com. That's where I publish the history of the future, and you get my latest article every week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.